So we have currently underway what has been loosely termed globalization. Right? Is it good or is it bad? It just is what it is. Is it possibly an effective way of affecting transformation and maybe bringing about that paradigm we discussed at the beginning, whereby we're no longer conducting ourselves under a system of monetarism, but we can transcend money and the monetary system and create, what would I call that, a commodity, or not commodity, I would call it a resource-based management and allocation system. So we have resources which mankind needs to better itself, to further itself, to sustain itself. And we can take the position, or we can create something that would bring that to a reality whereby we're no longer trapped into this monetary system. And this globalization has now put into place all the controls. Who controls the corporations? You do. And so we've laid out these global corporations under what we call globalization. And at any moment, we can take control of them. So we want the World Health Organization to actually heal people. Couldn't we use it for that? Couldn't we use these other world foundations that have been created for feeding people to actually feed people with them? So we've got all the triggers in place. We've laid out this global system. Some people see it as bad because they believe that that system controls them. They pray to the corporate gods. The corporation has authority over them. So they see it as something bad. They take a position that it's evil. It's evil for these fictions to be in control. Well, who's really in control? And if we're really in control and we're the creditors and we at any moment can take control of any corporation, couldn't we use the system that's right now in existence to affect a global change, a global transformation? Literally, in a matter of weeks, in a matter of months, we can take complete control of all these corporations that are already in place to handle global distribution of resources. Is there any place we couldn't distribute resources to? Is there any place we couldn't extract resources from? So, but in this system where incentive through monetarism is where we derive our compulsion to perform, then we're always looking at self-preservation. Because I'm focused on how much money can I get for the things I do. Because then I can take the money I get for the things I do and spend them on me. Because I mean, I'm not to say it's not, you should be concerned about eating, about taking care of yourselves, being healthy. Those are valid concerns. Now, and I realize there is this duality that we need to embrace. Like, yeah, we talk about living in the now, but in reality, if you were always living in the now, you'd starve and die. Or you'd walk out into the middle of the street without looking both ways and get run over by a car. Because you're never basing anything on any past experience. So you don't know that there's going to be cars driving 70 miles an hour down the street. So you're just going to walk right out into the street. Because you're in the now, right? Because a kid is most of the time in the now. They're completely unconscious. Like, they're going to run right out into the street. Yeah, they look up in the air, they run, and they're woohoo! Because that's their reality, that they're living in the now. They're not basing their current experience on any past experience. They're not making up any judgments out of the past. But we need to embrace that duality just a bit. So it's not like, we've discussed it in here before, will there ever not be debtors?
No.
No. Will there ever not be commerce? Now, commerce doesn't necessarily have to be based on a monetary system. That's one form of commerce. I bet if we thought hard enough, we could think about at least 10 or 20 different forms of commerce. with or without exchange of consideration. Yeah, and in fact, it's the monetary system and money that creates our concepts of scarcity, because there's a limited supply of it. Right? So, and remember the world's smartest man? The solution? Oh, well, let's just give them abundance. So what if we just gave you all blank checks? You could just write checks all day long and they would never run out. Would that solve all the world's problems? No. Because man by his nature. Yeah. So in reality, there needs to be a shift in consciousness before we can step into this new paradigm. Before we can embrace a different world and effect change to create that world, we need to look inside and what it's going to take from us to be the leaders in our communities. Because in reality, guys, only 2% of the people in this room are going to really get these principles and really use them. And only 2% of the people who download the audios and only 2% of the people who get exposed to any information like this, of affecting change, being responsible, and taking control, only 2% will ever actually be able to effectively use this information. Is that good or bad? It doesn't. It's neither. But if we take 2% of 7 billion people, we're talking like 144 million people. If 144 million people step up to lead their communities, is it possible we can transcend the system? Transcend what we believe to be wrong with the world? Literally take control of it? I mean, think about it. 144 million creditors with the knowledge of walking in and, I got control of you. I got control of you. And I'm talking about corporations and fictions. Because you can't control people. They're always going to do what they want to do. And that's never any other way. Believe it or not, whether you pray to the corporate gods and have your authority in man's law or not, it's still always by agreement. The only thing you have to do is die. Eventually, the physical body must go back to the earth. Now, that's the physical body. My personal belief is that the living soul is everlasting and will go on for eternally. So in reality, when I say you, what's the only thing you have to do? I guess to exist. Whether you're tangible or intangible, you will be the source of experience. That's the only thing that must happen. Okay. Now let's take this into contract and law. We've talked about contract a lot in here. We've talked about how contract is not necessarily something written on a piece of paper. You have quasi-contracts. You have contracts implied in law, implied in fact. Does anybody know what differentiates a contract implied in law, which is also known as a quasi-contract, versus a contract implied in fact?